The Polish People's Republic was a state in Central Europe that existed from 1947 to 1989 and the predecessor of the modern Democratic Republic of Poland. With a population of approximately 37.9 million inhabitants near the end of its existence, it was the most populous state of the Eastern Bloc after the Soviet Union. Having a unitary Marxist-Leninist communist government, it was also one of the main signatories of the Warsaw Pact. The People's Republic of Poland represented an era of many paradoxes. On the one hand, the reconstruction of the country from war damage was accompanied by enormous social enthusiasm. On the other, it was impossible to escape the intensified party propaganda of success, and the scale of persecution by the security service was unprecedented. The average inhabitant of the People's Republic suffered the consequences and limitations resulting from the inefficiency of nationalized industry. However, it was also a time of great creativity and resourcefulness.
I'm here with Rafał Padla, the owner of the PRL Museum here in Warsaw. Mr. Rafał Padla, welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome, thank you.
So, I'd like to start off by asking you some sort of questions regarding the culture of the time. And maybe you could tell us about who were the cultural icons of that era?
The culture was very rich in these times, starting from books, literature, cinema, theater, TV, music. It's hard to show one iconic person, but for sure we had this kind of evaluation of icons, starting from the mainly we talk about music and cinema, yes? So yeah. Starting from the 60s, when we could hear czerwone gitary, yeah? red guitars, which were our Polish Beatles. Going further, the music changed with every decade with let's say politics also. How much they could talk, what they could say. Yeah? So it's completely different music or cinema from the 60s than from the 80s. Yeah, it's different times. So
so was there more censorship as it went into the 70s and 80s, or less?
Well, depends on the times, because when there was this spring of solidarity for 1 year, the censorship went a little bit lighter, so they could all the Barea comedies and all the Men of Iron made by Wajda, these kind of movies would never appear in 60s or 70s, yes? So there were special moments when the artist could let's say, how to say,
express himself?
Express in a smart way, because, you know, because of the censorship, this is, well, maybe the phrase is not maybe proper, but thanks to censorships, the culture was so rich, because the artist, first of all, had a subject to fight, fight for freedom, fight for free speech, speak. But on the other hand side, they had to be much smarter to show the second meaning of phrases, to show second plan, background of the things that they wanted to express. So that's why these times were much, would say, richer than today, because of the fact that it wasn't so easy to create culture. But of course, on the other hand side, there were artists that were used by the party, by the government. Yes, so if you were an artist that was pro the system, you have all the ammunition, let's say, to express. You know, even Nobel Prizes. There were very many writers that in the 50s were writing things that were not very. Let's say they were pro the system, yeah. So also it was a challenge for artists to choose their way. Either you were pro the system and you had money, you had places to, you know, you had opportunities to express, or you were against and you had to go a bit underground. Yes. So
now I'm thinking about this. Obviously, throughout most of Central and Eastern Europe, there was a similar system, but I'm wondering how the Polish culture, could we say that it could be defined in some unique way that made it different from its neighbours?
Would say it was richer than in DDR or in the Soviet Union, that's for sure. Our socialist system was, would say, giving some opportunities to rise the culture. It was not such a, well, we don't talk about 50s when it was Stalinist times, we talk about further times, yeah? When it wasn't such a terror in everyday life, no? So, you know, the symbol, very symbolic is the year 78, when they had to, when they show Jadi in the theater and the government blocked it, and it all forced people to go out on the streets and make strikes. So see how one moment, expressed in the streets. No? So that shows that the culture was alive, that people were looking for culture. Well, for example, you can see in our museum pictures of lines of people waiting to go to cinema or theater. It was very hard to get a ticket. It was very hard to see the show in the theater. And so people were hungry of culture. Yeah? So that hunger, I think, was that make us different than other nations. I'm not a historian, so I'm not a specialist in that subject. But what I see, what I learn.
Sure, yeah. So the desire from the public, you know, pushes the creators on to create more and go into deeper subjects. Yeah. Okay, I'm wondering how the culture from that era, what elements we could say either affect or still exist in 21st century Poland.
Well, for sure. School of cinema in Łódź, the Polish cinema now is really reborn after many years of really low level. Now it's really good. So I would say these Polish directors like Kieślowski, who created his own way of making movies, which spread out to whole world. It's still, we see that, we learn that, and I think it's the inspiration is still big to us. We don't need to say about the music stars, yes, from the 80s, like Perfect or like Cult, that is still playing and it started in the 80s. Still, it's very popular. Still, people want to hear what they want to say. Yeah, especially Cult, I would say it was the symbol of saying things opposite to the times. Doesn't matter if it was communist times or modern times.
I'm wondering now specifically about Radio Free Europe and how they influenced public opinion at the time. Maybe you could introduce, tell our viewers what Radio Free Europe was.
Yeah, well, basically, I remember stories from my home when grandpa was trying to listen to Free Europe, and all the time communists were trying to break the signal so you can hear that. No, Radio Free Europe was the radio based in West Germany, where they were. Many Polish patriots emigrated and speaking about, heroes from the war times, from the home army. They were speaking about the things that really happens. Because of the propaganda, we had no idea what is going on, indeed, because you had only one channel, one point of view from the Communist Party. So whatever happened in reality, you would never get. Also about cutting, you would never know about cutting. Thanks to Radio Free Europe, you could get it. You could get that information. So for people here, that was the only source of information. There was no internet. That was the only source of real facts. And that's why that was this big fight between communist regime that was trying to, make us not hear that news. No?
Yeah, sure. I'm now wondering a little bit about the types of food that existed during that time. Maybe you could tell us a little something, what was typical of that time, and again, what is still popular today that was popular then?
Food.
Yes.
Yeah, you mean food. Well, lard became typical food in Poland, not because of the... it became popular because there was nothing else to eat. Yeah,
Fills your belly.
yeah. Well, my mother used to get just bread with lard to school when she used to go. No? And that was the only thing that was. But now, as people got used to the lard with bread and pickles, it became typical appetizer in nowadays bars. Yes, so food was very simple. However, also like people were very creative. Yes, like like we talk about culture, we talk about fashion, clothes, we talk about food. Polish ladies are the most like brave ladies in the world. They could create anything from nothing. Yes? So. They were making, it's typical jars with marmalade and so on. They were trying to create anything from possible things to God. Also, the important fact is that life was different in big cities and small towns. And big cities was much harder to get food. In small towns, you knew neighbors, someone had cows, someone had chickens, you could get eggs. The possibility to get food was much easier in small places than in big cities. No?
Thank you, Mr. Rafał Padla. Thank you very much for joining us at Poland Daily Culture.